It's Coastal Gardener on the Talk Station, FM 107.1. And this week is Small Farm Week. And we have Sean Banks with us this afternoon with the Cooperative Extension Agency.
North Carolina Cooperative Extension.
Okay, North Carolina, but the local office in Carteret County. And we have a farmer. I'll say a small farmer, but I know I've met Joe before. He's not that small. Anyhow, with that, this is Small Farm Week. And with that, Joe Merrill's joining us. Merrill Farms in Beaufort. With that, Joe, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time, as always.
Appreciate you having me on there.
Oh, hey, listen, our pleasure. All right, let's talk about this Small Farm Week. And, you know, one of the things, Sean, we've talked about this in the past, is getting people invested in farming and produce and quality products and good foods. That's, I assume, is the purpose of Small Farm Week?
Well, part of the purpose is to help people recognize their small farmers or their local producers, so that they'll go and purchase the products from the local producers, where it's a little bit fresher, a little bit tastier.
Well, hey, definitely tastier, and no long travels to get here. Joe, let's talk about you. Your farm is out on 101, and
yes, sir.
How long has that farm been in the business in your family? You've been in the family now for, I know, at least two, and I'm going to say probably 3 generations.
We're the oldest active century farm in Carteret County. Part of the land's been in the family since 1868, and my family's been here farming, fishing, logging since 1734.
Wow. What a story. You know, it's the heritage of farming that I think is something that's so very important as well. All right, Joe, and I know we've caught you in the midst of out there working your farm. As a matter of fact, I've got to make mention of this. When I called you, you were on the tractor and you had to pull over and we can reconnect. I do appreciate this. Let's talk about your farm. What are you raising right now, and how does the season look?
Right now, the season looks promising. We got a good crop of strawberries started. The strawberries is the earliest crop we've ever had. We've been picking 2 weeks, but the quality of the berry and the yield of the berry is probably a month ahead of schedule. Usually we don't pick like this until the last of April.
Wow.
And we've got a lot of other stuff coming off this early. Onions, we got leeks fixing to come off, and chard, and our beets are way ahead of what they were last year, and it's just been good weather for a lot of stuff.
You know, I'm happy to hear that, because let's just talk about this for a moment, Sean, and that is the role that local farmers play in the local economy too. I mean, this is a big issue, is it not?
Yeah. The better we can support the local farmers, the better they can do, and then a lot of that money goes back into the economy.
They do pay taxes,
right?
and of course, in the process, it's an attraction to the community. Joe, real quickly, your issues on berries and all that you're raising right now, are you finding most of the product that you're raising going to local consumers, or is some of this being pulled away by actually major companies like grocery stores and things of this nature?
We had to compete with other purveyors that bring it in, but all of our stuff goes local.
Okay.
For the most part. Once in a long while, we have surplus. We carry it to the Raleigh Farmers Market, or we got a customer in the fall we deliver to in Ayden, North Carolina, delivering collards, but most of it's within 25, 30 miles of the farm, one way or the other.
Outstanding. We're talking with Joe Merrill. I'm not going to keep him much longer, but we're talking him in recognition of this being Small Farm Week. Small farm is the right term.
Right.
The other aspect of this, Joe, and I think this is important, is how do people get to your produce? How can they get hold of you? And a little shameless self-promotion is acceptable here on the Talk Station, by the way. But how can people get to your products, and or do you have local outlets that you sell to regularly?
The easiest way to get it is at the farm stand here on 101. We also sell every Saturday starting April 15th at the Old Beaufort Farmers Market. We're a founding vendor. And talk to some of your restaurants and other grocery stores. I sell to a lot of small grocery stores, Beaufort and down east, and there's a lot of restaurants, about 18 restaurants I deliver to.
You know, that's another aspect of this, and I know that we've been talking about this in relationship to the topic of local seafood, but the other aspect of that is promoting local produce. And Sean, I'm thinking that's one of the things that the North Carolina Agriculture Extension Agency is trying to promote, getting the local vendors to utilize the local market.
Yeah, we try to help them to connect with the local markets. A couple years ago, we did a couple of videos of connecting the farmers to at least one restaurant that they supply.
Are you finding, Joe, and we will move on because I know you've got things to do, and we've got some weather moving into the area, so I'm confident you've got to get going. But are you finding a new awareness, shall we say, on the part of those local restaurants, on the part of people like myself, that, hey, you don't have to buy, and I'm going to use the term foreign product. It's foreign in the sense that it's not local. But are you finding a greater awareness, Joe?
I don't think it's a greater awareness. I just think that you have to let them know what you have, and because if they don't know what you have, they're not going to use it. Because a lot of times they will actually pay a little bit more for fresh stuff because it is fresher and has better flavor and it lasts longer than the stuff that's shipped in. But I have a deal with the restaurants where I text all of my chefs every Monday morning and tell them what's available so that they can prepare the menus for the week. And that gives them an idea of what I got, and then they text me back their orders.
Outstanding. And there's another aspect of this, modern technology. I mean, really, Sean, 20 years ago, it wasn't as you took more effort. You had to, for example, make phone calls. You had to wait for the other end to pick up. Now you can just simply put it out in a text message, broadcast it, if you will, and then suddenly you'll be getting orders. So I'm sure that's been a big benefit to your industry and to you particularly.
Well, it's been a help for a lot of the farmers being able to use that technology to get that information out to, like you said, to the chefs.
Right.
That way they don't have to necessarily go to the market. They can, because they know that the local farmers, the local producers have a really good product. They can just say, I want this and this and this, and they can have that delivered right to them.
Well, I think that's a great opportunity. I want to thank Joe Merrill for taking the time to be with us. Joe, I know you've got work to do. What time did you start this morning, by the way?
About 7 o'clock, and I've got another 3 hours to go yet.
Wow. Okay. A 12-hour day. That's a normal day for a farmer, isn't it?
Yep. I thank you, Lockwood, and I tell you, without Sean, we'd be in up the creek without a paddle. Because Sean is a good asset for the county and for us farmers, and he's helped us out a lot.
Well, I think it's in the process. I would say he's helped out the county because, quite frankly, we're now eating fresh vegetables, fresh produce, fresh poultry, everything. And the nice thing is, it hasn't had to be treated with anything for preservatives or anything of that nature. So I think that's a good sign. With that, Joe, best to you, and I look forward to talking to you in the near term.
Thank you, Lockwood. Come by and see us.
Definitely. All right. Thanks again. That is Joe Merrill with us this afternoon, and we're talking to him briefly about the fact that we've got this small farm week. As a matter of fact, Sean, I think this is really something that we've talked about a lot, and that is how we as a community can be more supportive with one another. And I think that, when we come up to circumstances such as a crisis or an event, that's another issue because, well, case in point, I think it was, I want to say Hurricane Floyd. Mm-hmm. We were surrounded by water. Yeah. None of the large grocery stores were getting produce or getting product.
Right. The trucks couldn't get in because they couldn't get down the roads, especially from I-95. It didn't matter which way they came. There was water over one of the roads that they were trying to get down here from. I did, and I mentioned, I was actually meant to say to Joe, but this idea of the fact that we're seeing now technology benefit small businesses in a fashion that historically
existed only for the large producers.
Right.
They had the staff, they had the technology, they had the ability to get the message out to the ultimate buyers, in this case, large buyers. But now, that same technology, that same asset, the same benefit is in the hands of, I don't care what size small farm or what size farm or operation, right?
Yeah, anybody can get a hold of that technology, and it's just a matter of them learning how to use it and get the information out.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Does the Cooperative Extension Agency, does that help farmers if they need assistance in helping learning the technology and things of that nature?
We have done classes in the past on how to use the technology. We've done classes on marketing and using some of the marketing tools. I haven't done any classes recently because most of the farmers at this point that want to use it have that knowledge already. But
Right.
in the past, we have done those classes to help them get familiar with some of the marketing tools that they can use.
Well, and we've talked about this in relationship to experiences people have with either diseases on their plants or critters that they find. We'll talk about that in a moment. We're going to take a quick break here on Coastal Gardener. We have Sean Banks with us with the North Carolina Cooperative Agriculture Extension Agency, or close to it.
Pretty close to that.
And this is National Small Farm Week.
Right.
Here on Coastal Gardener. Coastal Gardener on the Talk Station FM 107.1. Joining us this afternoon, of course, Sean Banks, Carteret County, North Carolina Agricultural Extension Agency here in Carteret County. And every county, am I correct? Every county has an agricultural extension agent.
Every county has an office of North Carolina Cooperative Extension.
Right.
Plus, we have one on the Cherokee Reservation. So we have one more office than we have counties.
Okay. We're talking about National Small Farm Week. And then we'll move on to a few other items. Farmers have had pretty much at the mercy, if you will, of a variety of items over which they have no control. First and foremost, weather.
Right.
Then secondly, availability of the competitive nature of the crop. But as you have instances where you have surpluses and other instances where you have losses because either of disease or some natural event has taken place. Let's talk here for a moment about how farmers deal with these situations. And does the Cooperative Extension Agency sort of take them through these steps in the process and guide them in directions where they can find help?
The federal agency, the Farm Service Agency, has some insurance that they can get for their crops, and that gives them a little bit of crop insurance in case there is a major failure. But one of the things that we with Cooperative Extension help to deal with, help the farmers to deal with a lot of these situations is we help them to learn how to diversify.
Right.
You notice when Joe was on the phone talking with us, he said he has the onions that are coming up. He has beets that are coming up. He's got strawberries that are getting ready right now. Farming is a gamble. You never know what the weather is going to be like.
Right.
You never know what the market's going to be like. So every farmer has to be a gambler, and they have to decide what they're going to put their time and their money into, and then hope that the weather cooperates and everything else falls in place for them to get a really good price for that.
In light of the fact that the legislature is looking at establishing online gambling, can farmers gamble legally?
Farmers have to gamble legally. Whatever they
they're
put their money in, it's a gamble to make sure it's going to come up.
I was intrigued, and we talked about this last week. Joe, and we were talking with Joe Merrill. If people are listening, just joining us a few moments ago, Merrill Farms in Beaufort, and he mentioned also that he is going to be selling at the Old Town Farmers Market in Beaufort.
Right.
And that starts April 15th. Yes, he did. And what I thought was interesting was he was really, really pretty excited about his strawberries. He said they're sweeter, they're bigger, they're earlier, they're am I to understand I can go get strawberries right now? We can go start picking strawberries?
Yeah, in fact, I talked to 3 of our farmers in this general area. I wasn't able to get a hold of the farmer down in the Stella or the western part of the county. But here in Carteret County, we've got strawberries at Willis Produce, at Garner Farms, and at Merrill's Produce.
Hey, I'm there. I'm leaving right now, as a matter of fact. The whole aspect of this, the concept of fresh produce. And by the way, fresh produce does have a downside. And the downside is once you taste that fresh strawberry, that fresh tomato, that fresh, name it, it's difficult to buy something off the grocery shelf when you know it's not quite fresh enough and it's not going to have the same pizzazz. I mean, tomatoes, perfect example, and strawberries too, and blueberries, because we got a big blueberry region here in eastern North Carolina. Yeah. That's a downside. I mean,
they do taste a lot better than the ones you buy in the grocery store, unless you're buying some from a local grower. And there are a couple local growers that do sell berries to the supermarkets, and those ones taste really good. But when you get those ones that have been shipped from California or Mexico or Brazil, they just don't taste the same.
It'll ruin your taste buds. It's the one problem with fresh. It will ruin your you will know what the difference is. All right, we're talking with Sean Banks again, the Cooperative Agriculture Extension Agency here in Carteret County, but North Carolina. What are some of the issues that we're dealing with now? And we jumped right into Small Farm Week, which is wrapping up now. And again, the farmers markets are opening up, which I'm excited about there. It just very positive situation. And of course, a moment ago, Joe said that pretty much it looks like everything he's got in the ground is looking very healthy.
The warm weather that we've had this winter has really helped a lot of things to grow a little bit quicker and get ready a little bit sooner than they normally would. Mm-hmm. Like he was saying, everything's about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of schedule at this point right now. If we can just keep the cool weather for a longer period of time, we'll be able to continue to have these spring crops for a regular amount of time.
Okay, speaking of that, I know we've got, as we come into the weekend, we're coming into some cold weather again, another cold front. Let's talk about that. We've talked in the past, every region has a freeze date. How close are we on our freeze date?
We're getting pretty close to the end of our frost date. We've got about one more week until the chance of frost goes down to less than 2%.
Okay.
So by Easter weekend, we'll be down to that less than 2% chance of having a frost. And so we're hoping that we'll stay away from that frost. The temperatures will stay above 40 degrees and the crops will continue to grow and produce, but the high temperatures won't get over 70 for about 4 or 5 more weeks.
Okay. Well, I don't know that's going to be tough. All right. Any other items that are taking place right now? We've got a few minutes left in the program.
Well, not right now, but I do have a few things I want to talk about next week. But right now, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the NC 10% campaign. Mm-hmm. And if you're not familiar with that, you can Google NC 10% campaign. And what that is where you make a commitment to purchase at least 10% of your groceries from local vendors, whether that's from a farmer's market or go to the grocery store and find those that are local vendors to your area.
Right.
And I know in other counties there's more meat producers and whatnot. Here in Carteret County, we have at least one meat producer and a couple of fish producers that will go to the Old Beaufort Farmers Market. Mm-hmm. They also sell to a couple of local outlets. Like Joe was saying, he sells to some of the smaller grocery stores like the Red and White, the Piggly Wiggly, the IGA, those producers that don't have corporate headquarters that they have to answer to.
Right.
A lot of our local producers can sell to those outlets and be able to make that. But if you wanted to go online to the NC 10% campaign, you could go on there and you could make the pledge to purchase 10% of your local or your groceries from local vendors, and they have different things on there that you can say, like eggs or meat products or just vegetables or fruits or whatnot, and then you can go and find out where those local outlets are.
All right. It's the website again.
It's NC 10% campaign.
NC 10, and is that a percent sign or a PERCENT?
I am not sure how they do it on the website. I think you have to spell it out for the Google search.
All right. We're talking with Sean Banks again, the Agriculture Extension Agency, Cooperative Agriculture Extension Agency. I keep leaving the cooperative out. He's cooperating with us here on Viewpoints. I do appreciate that. The other aspect of this, and we talked about the gamble that small farmers face. Obviously, there are people that are thinking of a second career. Are you finding and are you helping folks possibly that want to get back into farming, that like the idea of a small farm. And I'm going to ask a question. What is a small farm?
Well, a small farm, according to government regulations, is anything that makes under $500,000 net profit. To me, a small farm is acreage-wise is going to be somewhere around 1 to 5 or 10 acres.
Okay.
So it really depends on which definition you want to look at, whether it's mine or whether it's the government's.
Right. Okay.
But we do have here in Carteret County usually 1 or 2, sometimes 3 people a year that will call up and say, I have 1 to 5 acres and I want to do something to produce something on there. Or I've just inherited a couple of acres of farmland and I want to keep it in farmland. What do I need to do to keep that present use value? And so we'll talk to them about different things that they can use that for, different things they can grow, and then help to walk them through a little bit of that process of being able to do a little bit of that research, the market research, to find out what they might want to grow that has a demand, and then they can go ahead and start doing the small business stuff that they need to do. It's not necessarily going to be their main income,
Right.
but a secondary source of income for them.
Well, you're telling me that there is an income from farming, because farmers are by nature conservative people, but at the same time, we go back to what we said earlier. It's a gamble.
It is a gamble.
I mean, you're dependent. You have no idea the cost of fuel for their farm equipment, the repair for their equipment, the cost of maintenance, and also the purchasing or renting of that equipment. That's all very heavy stuff. This, and then on top of that, in order, it's not like that they have AAA. You don't pick up AAA and say, "Hey, my my tractor is out in the middle of the field. Will you come tow it away or put a new tire on?" You have to do your own work.
Yeah, a lot of that you do have to do the maintenance. A couple of things that you've left out of the cost is the high cost of fertilizer. Fertilizer prices the last couple of years have really skyrocketed.
Right.
And then if you're going to produce a product that's flawless that people want in the grocery store, you're going to have to use some kind of insecticide or some fungicides or something like that to keep the insects off, or find some other way of protecting the fruit, because let's just face it, when you walk into the grocery store, you're looking for something that doesn't have any specks or pecks
Right.
or bites
Yep.
or anything
It's
like
gotta
that
be
in
perfect.
it. So buying local, sometimes we have to ignore a few flaws just to make sure that we're getting a really good, tasty product.
Trust me, the flaws don't hurt the taste at all. I
This
know
is true.
firsthand. Sean, as always, thank you for being with us, and I want to thank Joe Merrill, who's no longer with us. He was on the phone, but thank him for his time today. I thought it was great. I'm very generous of him to stop his tractor
Right.
so that he could talk to us. You're listening to Coastal Gardener.